Well, hey everybody, this is Kenny Jahng reaching you live over across the interwebs with my new friend, Justin Trapp. He's a busy guy building an amazing ministry, and we had a chance to stop and chat today. And I want to share a little bit about his story and the resource that he has available that I think you're going to find incredible. Welcome today, Justin. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks, Kenny, for having me on.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit, just a snapshot of your background and your heart for the church and where you are today with your venture.
Yeah, so early on in life, I realized two things. One, I was an entrepreneur. At age 10 years old, I had my first lawn mowing contract where I gave the guy a discount if he would let me mow his lawn for the summer, and he had to pay me up front. And so I realized early on I was very entrepreneurial from an early age, but also early on I realized I felt a calling to be in ministry vocationally, full time, part time, whatever. But I knew that God had put me in a certain environment, parental environment, to foster that passion for doing the work of the Lord. And so that's early on. And today I'm very much involved entrepreneurially. I have a few businesses as well as the local church, and so I'm fired up to connect with Kenny and you guys.
So you actually have been sitting inside a church on church staff before, right?
Oh, yes, sir. I was a full-time youth pastor 6.5 years, and then I was associate pastor the last 3.5 years before I just recently transitioned off to focus full-time on a company I own called Ministry Pass, which we launched about a year and a half ago.
Nice. So very similar background where you have a foot in the church empathetically. You understand the challenges, real life, practical, inside the walls of a ministry. And I love this Ministry Pass platform that you're producing right now. Tell us a little bit about what that service is and who it's aimed at. How does it work?
Sure. So Ministry Pass is really for the church under 300. The pastor, the solopreneur, part-time pastor, solo pastor, but part-time staff or volunteer staff, where, they're in a culture that is so visual, and we see so many billions of dollars spent in great marketing and great advertising, and then you have your church, and a lot of times we have like the clip art graphic, and we do our best, but we can only do so many things. Especially, I meet pastors all the time that they're burning 70 hours a week, doing the best they can, and graphics and media is really, it's important, but it's not the most urgent thing on their to-do list. And so what we tried to do is build a library of resources that pastors could become a member. They log in, and then you have over 500 ready-to-use sermon series that you can use for all your promotional needs, your screens, your Facebook, social media, bulletins, postcards. And then what we found is a lot of pastors said, hey, I love the graphics, that's great, but I really need a little bit more help in this sermon development, sermon prep area. And so we've evolved, even 8 months into our launching, we've evolved into really more of a balanced sermon series, sermon content offering. So we give pastors a framework for a sermon series or a sermon itself. Say, hey, we're not going to give you a transcript, but we're going to give you the foundational framework for you to flesh this out through your own unique voice. And oh, by the way, you can use these passages. Here's the big ideas. Here's the expanded talking points. But the rest is between you and God. And then, of course, you get all the promotional materials as well. So we really tried to help the pastors who, A, don't have time, and B, don't have a large budget. And so that's what we've designed Ministry Pass for.
Right. So it's an affordable monthly fee, and they get access to the entire library. You don't throttle it at all.
No, unlimited access all the time.
And so that's what I love, that you actually have. Let's just talk about Easter. Easter's coming up, and so if a church team is trying to prepare for that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's either up to the pastor to stay up late, burn the midnight oil, and to really try to do graphics, and that's not why you went to seminary, right? So. Or you're leaning on your volunteers or even your staff, and sometimes just they don't have the skills or the bandwidth to get to it. And so logging into your Easter section, just as an example, there's just multiple versions of graphics for that, for Good Friday. It seems like you have sermon illustrations and all these things that the pastor really can start to inventory, pick and choose, and then build a complete Easter weekend out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do the whole thing, download, it's ready to use. You can publish to Facebook or your email or your website immediately. And then we also have probably one of our most popular Easter resources called the Easter Outreach Blueprint, and it literally gives you step by step.
Yes.
Hey, 4 weeks out, say this, do this, post this. 3 weeks out, say this, post this, do this. And churches have found it really, really helpful.
Yeah, I saw that download pack. That was amazing. And this is what I love. I think most of the pastors, especially in that, I would say, sweet spot maybe for your service of someone who has 50 people to maybe 200, 250, maybe 300 people before you start to really add staff and specialize on a church staff. Many of those ministries don't know that there are resources like this out there in such an affordable manner, right? We look at all these resources where these businesses are targeting the mega churches or the big churches that have huge budgets, but no one's really paying attention to the guy that actually is the solo pastor. And so I just love the fact that you're trying to help that audience.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a church marketing company. We were targeting the larger churches, and when we launched our website, we got a lot of phone calls, and I sat on the phone with pastor of a church of 70 people who really, they didn't have a large mega church budget, but he needed a lot of help, and I heard the pain, I heard the how tired he was, and I knew we had to do something to help. We had a larger platform, and so we went back to the drawing board and said, let's create something for these churches that really need this the most. And so that's how Ministry Pass was birthed.
That's pretty cool. So tell me a little bit about the production process. How often are you creating new resources to add to the platform? And is there any way for people to give some input or needs, etc.?
Sure. So our team, we have a content creation cycle. Every month we're adding new things to the site. So in addition to the sermon series, you have announcement packages and event bundles. So we try to add stuff that's seasonally relevant. So Mother's Day bundles or graphics, resources, Father's Day, graduation. So all those little things along throughout the year. But then we also take a look at the year as a whole from a sermon, from a content standpoint. And we add stuff every month that we feel like this type of series or this series would be very beneficial to churches here in the next 2 months. And then one of the things that most of our users use, I would say, or at least that they've accessed it at some point, is we have what are called our sermon calendars. And so we take some of our products and we build out the entire year for pastors. And so we have one that's like a topical sermon calendar. It's called the Storyteller. And then we have one that's more of a book by book, and it's called the Teacher. And then we have students and kids as well. And so we say, hey, you wanna get ahead, you wanna get organized with your sermon prep? Here's the calendar. Here's the year laid out for you. Some pastors, they follow it to the T. They say, man, I love it. I don't have to worry about planning anymore. In fact, it has allowed me to invite other people to preach on our team, because I can say, hey, in 3 months we're preaching about forgiveness. I thought you would be great at teaching this. And so you're really empowering other people to come around you. And then also we see guys mix and match. They say, hey, I like parts of the Teacher. I like the Storyteller. And then some guys or some ladies will say, hey, you know what? I like looking at it. It really inspired me to create my own. And I like what you did here. And so either way, it's a jump start. It helps. And it is by far the most popular thing on our site, for sure, hands down.
Yeah, because it's a very practical, it's not theoretical, it's not academic. You literally lay out, from what I see, is 52 weeks of the year topics that they can, and then what I love is that you match not just these topics, but you actually have media resources for each one of those if they want to pursue it, right?
Yeah, so our hope and our goal is that when you download a product from us, you're going to have everything that you would need from preaching to promotion for your media resources. So yeah, it's ready to use as soon as you download it.
I love this topical calendar. It's the old adage, right, that my dad kept on saying is, plan the work, than work the plan, right? So what a gift to the church that you have here. Well, thank you so much for stopping in with us. We need to chat a little bit more because I think you have some insight into that smaller church, that environment. And maybe we can talk next time a little bit about some best practices for outreach and preaching and other things that might actually be helpful for those church leaders. But really appreciate the time. I know you're busy, and that we were able to catch some time today together. Just the last, as we close, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, to reach out to you personally?
Yeah, personally, you can follow me on Twitter at Justin Trapp, or do a Facebook search. I have a profile on there as well, Justin Trapp, and I respond actively to both of those. So love to connect.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Check out ministrypass.com. Leave some comments, and let's continue the conversation.